The agricultural sector is very strategic in the economy, contributing about 2% to the country's GDP. This is where we find role players gathered here at the Agri SA Conference to try by all means to discuss all of those issues that are affecting the sector from moving forward. We've seen captains of the industries, emerging farmers as well, and those that are active in the sector are just trying by all means to discuss issues that are affecting the economy, issues that are affecting the agriculture sector. Also, government taking a keen interest on what is happening here today. We saw the Agriculture Minister Katlego Legodi also taken to the podium to just let us in on the challenges that have existed over time and that tend to affect the work of the agriculture sector. But we know very well that this is a sector that is also in need of transformation, looking at the fact that there's also issues of land that needs to be released to ensure that farmers are able to do their job, the issues of food security that is actually brought to the spotlight here today. And I'm joined by Kulani Siweya. He'll just let us in really on what we can expect here today. He's an economist, and we know very well that the economy is under the spotlight, especially where this sector is concerned. You are in the sector, and you know more or less very well in terms of the ins and the outs and the ongoings of the sector. And just currently looking at the fact that there's a Transnet strike that is ongoing as we speak right now, that has a direct impact on the work of the sector in terms of just ensuring that the economy really tends to become active. Just let us in really on what we can expect here, especially over the issue of the economy. This is a very strategic sector.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you've noted it as well in your introduction that the sector contributes about 2% of the country's GDP. It might look minute comparing to other sectors, but there's a ripple effect. If you think about just the knock-on effects and things like employment, the sector currently employs just above 800,000 employees in the primary side of things. But even just across the value chain, it's even more, millions more of jobs that are being added on. You've also highlighted some of the challenges that include the Transnet strike that's currently ongoing. There's high fertilizer prices, high fuel prices that the sector has been contending with. So we're meeting today to kind of find ourselves in a place where we're finding commitments from government, which is a key stakeholder for the agricultural sector. And I think it's important to note this because if you compare the agricultural sector in South Africa, which is a net exporter, if you compare it to our peers globally, we receive little to no direct support from government. So such commitments from governments when it comes to infrastructure, to production loans, whatever the case may be, goes a very long way in ensuring that the sector remains viable, sustainable and profitable going forward. So we are looking forward to some of the commitments that are coming out from Transnet. Right now we are going to be speaking to some of the other industry leaders from the logistic groups, from the actual providers of fertilizers and things like that. So yes, the Congress should be one that has meaningful feedback coming out of it in essence.
Let's just end really on the issue of over the years. We know very well that land and has been a sticking point. There's a move in Parliament as we speak, and this will speak directly to the production on the ground and just emerging farmers being able to really occupy the space without any hindrance where the rollout of land is concerned. Looking at the issue of land and the economy, is there an opportunity here where we can say that at least if there's an adequate law that speaks to the expropriation of land, then at least we'll see the people coming through into the sector, being active in the sector. That would tend to help where the economy is concerned.
Yeah, definitely. Look, we cannot detach legislation away from just the free market basis of how the agricultural sector operates in. And I think it's very key for us to have a very solid policy space and legislation that is in place that ensures that it does not undermine the free market that the agricultural sector operates in. Currently, as it stands, there are still a few points of contention with the current bill when it comes to land, because we just feel that there's a whole lot of open-ended clauses that are still out there. They're still quite ambiguous and still quite broad, which can be a risk for the sector itself going forward. So we are quite concerned about that, and that speaks to the confidence. We'll continue to engage with government, obviously, to ensure that the legislation or the policy environment is conducive for the sector to ensure that we are either sustaining the current trajectory of the agricultural sector, which is a growing one, as well as attracting new players in this place. But all of that stems from the confidence that's derived from a sure kind of policy environment more than anything else.
There have been issues that have affected the sector. Looking at the July unrest, it has affected the sector. Looking as well at the COVID-19 pandemic affecting the sector. Looking at the Ukraine, war, Russia-Ukraine war, that has also affected the sector. And now we're talking this Transnet strike that has affected the sector. In terms of the numbers, maybe looking at the Transnet strike and load shedding is also one of them. How much are we losing? Where the strike is concerned, where the issue of load shedding is concerned on a daily. I mean, we're trying to pick up the pieces from COVID-19 and what is happening in Russia and Ukraine, but there's still these issues here at home, like your Transnet strike and your Eskom. How much are we losing as a day goes by and these issues are playing out?
Yeah. The numbers run well into the millions as well as billions, because farmers themselves are needing to find alternative ways to ensure that their produce is either reaching the market or the produce is being produced at an optimal level from the ground up. We have seen, as you rightfully have pointed out, many things that have played out in the last couple of years. The sector has remained resilient. I must mention that it's quite resilient and has remained quite agile. But I think we should not run. We should run away from using that as a basis of saying that things are not supposed to be going the way they're supposed to be going in this sense. So from a Transnet point of view, we are trying to play our part as well to kind of speak to the correct role plays in ensuring that that situation plays out as best as possible. We've also been in conversation with government for some form of support with fuel prices, and we saw that in the last couple of months when the fuel levies were lifted for some time. So the impact does run into the millions with load shedding. We've heard farmers saying that they're spending close to 300,000 on just running their generation units per day in order for them to still produce and irrigate their plants or their crops during times of load shedding. So yes, the numbers are quite stark and it's not a good picture, and we're hoping that all of these will be resolved in order for the agricultural sector to still remain on a good footing.
Mr. Kulaniswaya, thank you very much, sir, for your time. He is an economist just coming through there from Agri SA Conference to let us in on what has been happening in the sector. Pivotal is the issue of an economy that is active, an economy that is resuscitated from all of these challenges that exist on the ground, and also trying by all means to understand the link and the partnership that is needed with government as well, and those role players that are here to adequately attend to some of these issues. But this is a strategic, really, a sector that the economy needs to be active. And you heard him there. The economists are talking about the billions that are being lost on a daily as the Transnet strike continues, and the issues of load shedding, saying that there are already a lot of people in the sector that have sent complaints to say that they're hoping that really those issues will be attended to. The Transnet CEO is here, Portia Derby. We have the COO of Eskom, Jan Oberhauser, who will also be forming part of this discussions here. Earlier on, we heard from the Minister of Agriculture, Thoko Didiza. So it kind of tells you that it's all hands on deck in terms of those role players that are here in trying by all means to ensure that this sector is not compromised where the economy is concerned. Katlego Legodi, SABC News, Pretoria.